Joined by Jared Gordon, who's going to be fighting Danny Chavez. I may have misspoke. This might be a featherweight. Jared, first of all, I hope you had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you are safe and sane because these are some tough times. It's been a tough year. And, of course, congratulations off your latest win, too. So I know I said a lot, but how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Holidays were slow, COVID and restrictions and traveling. But still had a good time. Ate well. About my last couple of huge meals, until I fight. But everything's been good. I live in Florida, so the restrictions here are a lot lighter than the rest of the country. So it hasn't been that bad for us, luckily.
Your next fight's at featherweight, right?
Correct, yeah. I went back down to featherweight for my last fight, and I'll continue to be a featherweight. I truly believe that that's the weight class that I should have been at this whole time.
Yeah, I kept forgetting. I mean, I obviously congratulated you on the win because I know Fishgold was the win, and for some reason I thought Oliveira what was it? So you go to both different weight classes, but right now you're focused on 45. So let's talk about that win over Fishgold. It looked like you carried a lot of emotion going into that fight. And like I said, it has been a tough year. And then also I want to congratulate you on 5 years of sobriety. To see what you had listed there on your social media was incredible when you break it down the way you did. 5 years, a certain amount of days and everything. And you could tell that's just a never-ending battle that you'll always have for the end for the rest of your life. But guess what? You've been undefeated in the last 5 years. Shout out to you.
Thank you. So, yeah, going into the Fishgold fight, we were like in the middle of the pandemic. I think it was the first time UFC had gone to Fight Island, so I wasn't sure what to expect. My fiance had contracted COVID like 2 weeks before the fight, so I was quarantined alone. A lot of people in my gym were getting COVID. My coaches and teammates, Gilbert Burns tested positive. He wasn't able to fight, and my coaches all tested positive. So I went there with no coaches, no teammates, and I was alone. And I wasn't going to the gym for like 3 or 4 weeks before the fight because I was afraid to get COVID. So I was doing all my workouts on my own. It was crazy. I'm training 2-3 times a day by myself. There's only so much you can do. So I felt rusty. I felt off my timing. I wasn't sparring. I wasn't rolling. So I went to Fight Island just quote unquote raw dogging it, but I just believe that, I'm the better fighter and I got the W, and I was able to dig deep, and, it was kind of boring. I almost had him out of there in the third round, but the ref didn't stop it. I just felt like I had like no pop on my shots, no punch on my punches, and standing, I felt like I was in the mud. I guess because I wasn't doing pad work, I wasn't sparring, everything was just off. And I was also really, really sick 2 weeks before the fight, before I left. I got super sick for like a week. I had a terrible fever, but I got tested 3 times that week, and I kept testing negative for COVID. And then I went to Vegas, I tested negative. So I don't know if I had it or not. But it was, it was a messed up camp, and, I just came off the loss to Oliveira, so I just had to get the W, and I did. And that was the third fight on my contract. I was awarded a new contract. I got a pretty decent raise. So I'm going into this fight full camp. Hopefully everything works out the way it's supposed to, and go get my W.
Yeah, the way they broke it down when the UFC did the documentary from Fight Island was something else, man. Is it, if I'm not mistaken, is this when Eric Nixick became a part of your camp as well? And
Correct. Felder
take off the tie, right?
A friend of mine, so he cornered me. Eric Nixick and Gary Tonin, who fights for ONE FC, Renzo Gracie black belt, or Danaher black belt, or whatever you want to call it. And I trained with him for years up in New York. So he was there cornering someone else, and I was like, "Hey, you want to corner me too?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So it was a great corner, actually. It was kind of an all-star corner. I had Gary Tonin, one of the best grapplers on the planet. I had Felder, who, is just a close friend of mine. We've trained for years together, so he knows who I am and what my game is. And Eric, I've known Eric for a while, and it just worked. It was just cohesive, and everyone got along, and the cornering was easy. I could hear them. They cornered me really well, and it worked out, and it made for a great story,
Well, let me tell you something, man. That had to be a horrible mind fuck. Everything going on with the coaches, everything going on with the negative tests, being on an island with others, but you're all together in a bubble, but you're also secluded in your rooms for a certain amount of hours. So, the win, man, the win was epic. It was important. It was cool to see your better half. When I'm watching the documentary, it escapes my name. It was called Fight Island Unclassified. There you go. Yeah, seeing her emotions. It was all really, really interesting. It really was.
My better half. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's what I was supposed to
She's
say.
definitely my better half.
Yeah, no,
it was crazy, man.
You deserved that.
No, go ahead.
No, you deserve that win. You went through a lot. You were being hard on yourself. You're like, well, it was kind of boring at the end or whatever. No, man. All those fights were special. Every fight this year has been special because of the circumstances. And then Declassified allowed us to see behind the curtain just everything somebody, like yourself went through. So the win is the win.
Yeah, it was crazy. And, when I got to Vegas, I tested negative. Then they send me to Abu Dhabi, and we got tested at like 3:30 in the morning. I passed out, and I wake up to a phone call from a Houston, Texas number. And I'm like, at first I thought it was spam, but I answered it, and there was a Australian sounding guy in the other line. And he was like, "Hey, mate, it's me, Mick Maynard." And I was like, "Hey, what's up, Mick?" I never talked to Mick because he's not my matchmaker. So I have no reason to talk to him unless I see him at a fight. So he was like, "Oh, I got some bad news. You tested positive." So I was like, "What?" I've been testing negative for the weeks leading up to this. Turned out it was a false positive, but, then I start, making the connection on the plane over there. Me, Bisping, Sarah, one of the flight attendants, and Dana, we all took a picture together, arm in arm. So if I had tested positive, that means that I was in contact with the president, one of the commentators, Sarah. We're on the plane. Everyone that's on the plane that's around me has now come in quote unquote contact with me. So for 12 hours, I was like freaking out when I was over there. They had to retest me, but I had to wait, 12 hours to the next day for my result. Came back negative. Then they tested me again. That came back negative. So it was a false positive. But for 12 hours, I'm thinking, wow, I ruined Fight Island. Take down the whole company, So it was pretty nerve-wracking. And with everything else that was already going on, my fiance, like I said, got COVID, but she also had a miscarriage 3 days before she contracted COVID. So everything leading up to Fight Island and then getting there was just insane. No coaches. So yeah, the W meant a lot, and I was able to get it done and move on to the next one.
I'm glad you were able to get that release, man, because everything you were talking about, I couldn't imagine just one of those stressors having one. You had like 3 or 4 going on all at the same time. Yeah. It was pretty nuts. I want to ask you a little bit about your position right now and where you're at in your career. Could you say, as far as weight goes, as far as training camps go, are you pretty close to finding what is, I guess maybe people will say, is the right recipe? Or does that recipe constantly change? How do you feel about that right now at this moment?
Man, so that's exactly what I've been feeling and thinking, is that, when I first got into UFC, I blew through the first 2 fights. I looked great, My first fight was at 45. I missed weight. so they made me move up to 55. But then I fought Hakron Diaz, my second UFC fight, and he was a 45er his whole career. So really, I just fought another 45er at 55, and I blew through him. And then I fought Diego Ferreira, and that didn't go my way at 55. And then I fought Joaquin Silva. We got fight of the night. It was a great fight. I tore my hamstring off my pelvis. I wound up losing that fight. But as I'm getting in the cage, I'm looking at these guys across the cage. I'm like, geez, these guys are huge, And, like my frame, I'm just not a 55er. I don't have height. I don't have the length. I have a 69-inch reach. That's like a 35er or 25er. And I'm just smaller than these guys, like size-wise. So, I was at Rufus Sport for the Joaquin Silva. I fought Dan Moret, who was also huge, 6'1", way longer than me, humongous. I beat him just because I was better. And then I fought Oliveira. I took that kind of like on a whim. He couldn't get a fight lined up, and I lost my opponent. And they were like, "Would you fight Oliveira?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever. I'll take the shot at it." Just because, if I win, that propels me. If I lose, it's like, well, you lost to Oliveira. Didn't go my way. Then you got to look at a guy like Oliveira, super tall, long as hell. He's great everywhere. Look at him. He's destroying the competition. So I think the Oliveira fight had to happen for me to finally say, all right, I got to go back to 45. I'm just too small for the weight class. So I made the jump back down. Then I also moved my camp to Sanford MMA, which is way more my style. Duke, I learned a lot from Duke. I love him at Rufus Sport. But it's a striking gym, and I'm a ground and pound guy. I'm a grappler. I got to wrestle. I got to roll. I have knockouts, but that's not my game. I'm not gonna be running off the cage and kicking people in the head like Anthony Pettis. And it's just I have to be who I am. I can't try to be something that I'm not. In this game, it's just when the guys are really big and they're really good, it's just so hard to win. Where do I find the advantage? So now that I'm back at 45, the weight class that I should be in, I'm at Sanford. I'm wrestling like almost every day we wrestle. I'm rolling. I think also the striking is more my style for my kind of frame and just how I started my career off anyways. So I'm in the right place. I just got a new contract. I'm coming off a win. I got a nice raise. I'm back at 45. And, now is my time I really feel like I'm going to hit a stride here. And, I think I'm flying under the radar too. My game is underrated. I have a skill set that most people do not possess. You see it all the time where guys, he had 20-something takedowns. It's like, that's impressive. But to me, that just tells me that you don't know how to hold people down and hurt them on the floor. You take them down and they get up. You take them down and they get up. So it's like when I take people down, they normally don't get up. And I'm beating you up on the floor. And I have in UFC history for ground strikes, I'm top 5 in UFC history. I think I'm in front of GSP and I'm behind Kamaru. I'm behind Khabib and Tatiana Suarez. So I put up numbers. I take you down and you're gonna have a hard time there. And like now you just gotta stop it. So it's like Khabib. Everyone knows what Khabib is gonna do. He's gonna take you down and he's gonna smash you on the floor. And that's what I do. And I just gotta find my way to the inside, take you down, and once I take you down, I'm gonna have I have a really good chance of hurting you there. So I think I'm flying under the radar. I think a lot of my attributes are underrated, and I think if you look at me on paper, it's like, well, this guy's like, I'm 4-3. I fought 2 guys. I lost to 2 guys that are ranked top 10, Ferreira and Oliveira. My other loss is in a fight of the night that I was winning every round on every judge's scorecard, and my hamstring ripped off my pelvis. So I was on one leg in the 3rd round. So yeah, I lost the fight. I couldn't move. I started getting hit. The ref stopped it. So like, if you know what you're talking about and you look at my record on paper, you're like, well, this guy's fought some monsters. And I was fighting out of my weight class. So like I think I'm flying under the radar, and I know that I'm gonna hit a huge stride right now and go on a tear.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because earlier in the show, George had referenced in April we're going to be going on our 14th year of our show. Okay, so we do this a lot, but there's so many of you guys that it's so hard to keep track of what exactly this guy looked like in his last fight and all that. And I was curious, when they threw the name Danny Chavez at you, are you that ingrained in these divisions that you know right away every name that gets thrown your way, or were you kind of like, who's this guy, and you got to go in and dive in a little bit? What is that like for you?
Well, I remember hearing the name before. I did have to look at film, and then I'm like, okay, I know who he is because I remember watching his fight. I normally watch every card, so I remember he's a tough guy, and he's explosive, and he's got knockouts, and he's a stand-up guy, and he throws that calf kick, and he throws head kicks, and he's got some good wins. But I think stylistically, it matches me well, and it works in my favor. He's like, I think I'm a little bigger than him, and I know that I fought tougher competition than he has, and I think my skill set, matches up really well with him, and I'll be able to exploit where he's weaker. And his 4 losses are 2 submissions and 2 decisions. So I'm assuming, that when I first saw his record, that he probably got out grappled or something like that. So I think in the transitions and certain little nuances, I'll be able to exploit those things. And, everyone has a chance. You got 4-ounce gloves on and you kick and knee people in the head, you're going to hurt them. So, but I think I'm figuring out how I have to go into a fight and how, I don't have to rush things, take my time, see my openings and figure out the puzzle,
You ever bet on fights, Jared?
Yeah, I've been on a couple of fights, but recently I've trying not to gamble. It's just not for me. It's like being sober and I'm supposed to practice certain principles in all of my affairs of life. So people think being sober means, okay, you just don't drink and get high. No, being sober is doing everything without sin, basically. Like, I'm not going to cheat on my girl. I'm not going to womanize girls. I'm not going to be, catcall girls or, fight people on the street, be an asshole to people. Not like if I see someone that needs help, go help them, not just, I think that what shows true character in someone is if you're having a bad day, but you still go out of your way to help someone else. So that's what I try to do. When I see someone on the corner and they're begging for change, I give them money. I know what that's like to be on the corner and ask people for money. I've done that before. So gambling, and I've lost money gambling before. I've been in the casino. I love blackjack. I love poker, slot machines. I've bet on sports. I've bet on fights. I've won before, and I've also fucking lost before. Excuse my language. So it's like I'm trying to stay away from that. But
I understand. I asked because when you were talking about those stats about holding people down or whatever, I know a lot of people that bet that would love hearing that, about where you stand with GSP and Kamaru. That's when you can cement and win those rounds, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Because I'm around a lot of people that bet, and I'm around a lot of people that live bet. And what we want to see is if you secured the first round and you had an easy time of getting somebody down, holding them down, we don't mind if you lose round 2, especially if you've already taken their best shot. You know that they can't do anything to you because we know that you're just saving it for the third, and then the third you'll get the takedown. Try and finish, but if not, we know we got a 2-1. Judges score, boom, ching, you know what I mean? But I'm a guy that has vices as well, and I know what it's like when they all kind of come together, when they blend over one to the other. That's why I was wondering if you said that, and you said another thing. You go, man, I don't miss any fights. I was like, this guy, he's watching the prelims. I wonder if he's betting. That's why I asked. I'm a fellow gambler. I gamble a lot. You don't.
I had a bookie AG account, and I would win. I would make crazy bets, parlays, and it was just like, I'm like, all right, it's just not worth it for me at this point in my life. And then I lose $500, $1,000. I could have bought anything else that I needed or wanted that I probably held off on buying, but I'm willing to just gamble it away. It's like, to me, I do stuff like that, and this is something that has like recently happened to me. My girl was in North Carolina and she was coming back from the trip, and I picked her up in at Fort Lauderdale Airport, and right next to the airport is the Hard Rock Casino. She's like, "You want to go up to the Hard Rock?" I'm like, "All right." So this was like a couple months ago. I pull out $1,000. I hit the blackjack table. I get murdered. I play every card right. I'm hitting on 16. I'm staying on 12 when they have a 4, and I'm getting raped. They're hitting every card. Boom, $1,000, 10 minutes. And I'm like, what the I could have paid my car payment. I could have done 2 car payments with that. I could have paid part of my rent, you know what I mean? And I'm like, why did I just do that? And then I also spent $200 on food with my girl. I went to the airport to pick my girl up. I spent $1,200. You know what I mean? So it's like
you would have put her up running a limo for her, and that would have cost $30. Oh man, the way you broke it down.
I was like, fuck.
You should have just done a limo with roses, and that would have cost you $150 or $200, and you just stay at home, and you would have saved $1,000 on that day.
Yeah, and I probably would have, maybe got some action.
Oh man, you don't know how many times I hear guys, my buddies yelling at their wives or their girlfriends. You spent how much at the store? Costco or something, $200. And I'm sitting there telling them, shut the fuck up. You got $800 on the Rams. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Well, man, let me tell you something too. I had a friend who was a pro MMA fighter, and not last week, but the week before, he committed suicide.
What?
He was like one of my best friends, and
sorry to hear that.
He had I don't know for sure, but I'm like pretty sure he was a degenerate gambler. Serious degenerate gambler. And I know that was part of his depression,
Yeah.
And I've seen guys who are sober who were rich, like but like I knew one guy, he had $2 million liquid cash. He was a degenerate gambler, and he gambled every dollar away. And then he gambled his house away. And then he drank himself to death. He was sober for 20 years. He went back to drinking, drank himself literally to death because of his character defects. Like, couldn't stop gambling. He couldn't stop chasing that high, And for me, like someone like me, like I used to shoot cocaine and heroin, and I used to do crazy shit to get money. And I used to I would do anything I would rob a drug dealer. I would rob someone. I would pull a scheme. I would do this. I would sell drugs. And like, it's all for me. I'm like an action guy. Like I need to do something where I'm like, having action. So gambling, I used to gamble like crazy. I used to, so like in sobriety, if I'm sober, but I'll just gamble. So it's just another high,
Did you see that Adam Sandler movie?
What's that?
Did you see that Adam Sandler movie? Ghost. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where Adam Sandler
Uncut Gems.
What is it? Yeah, that one.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
My movie. 2 of my friends were in that movie.
Wow. Yeah, it's based in
New York, and
Yeah.
That's the Diamond District, you know, where it took place in Manhattan, and whatever. But that's what I'm saying. You get yourself wrapped up, and then all of a sudden now you got the mob looking for you because you owe the bookie money, and you borrowed money from a loan shark, so you paid the bookie off, but now you own the loan shark 50 G's. You can't pay the loan shark. Now you're asking your friends and family to spot you the money, but no one wants to help you out because everyone knows you're a degenerate gambler, and then you kill yourself. So like I'm not willing to do that. I'm done with that shit. I played that game way too much. And yeah, I'm not like, you know, I'm 32, but I did that, you know. Oh shit, let me borrow 20 G's from a loan shark. Now I'm paying a VIG every week. I can't keep up with the VIG. You know what I mean? I'm paying whatever, $100 per 1,000 or whatever it is a week, or per 5,000. Your VIG is 500 a week. How the hell do you keep up with that? $500 a week VIG. You're paying 2 G's a month, just in interest, no principal. Get the fuck done. I did that for too long in New York. You know, that's like the hustle out there. Everyone's a loan shark, or they own. All my friends own poker rooms. They get raided by the cops. Now they're in jail. They come out. They borrow money. They owe. It's retarded. So I'm done with that.
I'm glad you're down in Florida and you're a successful pro MMA fighter coming off a big win. You got Chavez. I said Chavez. I've always said Chavez ever since I saw Young Guns 20 years ago. Yeah, so we're looking forward to that fight at featherweight, which is where you seem very, very comfortable. You had a tough weight cut on Declassified. Either that or maybe Felder was making it out to be worse than it was.
I mean,
you got
it's always going to be tough. But I made weight pretty fat, and it wasn't. I didn't have to I've done a lot worse cuts before, but so I'm comfortable. I know I'm more experienced. I know how to the whole process. When I was younger, I would, you know, cut weight like an idiot. Now, you know, I have a nutritionist. I have someone helping me cut weight normally that they couldn't come for Fight Island, but I've done a million weight cuts with Felder. I helped him. He's helped me. So we know each other, and I feel comfortable at featherweight, man. And I know that's, I mean, look at these guys at lightweight. They're monsters. Huge. They're all walking around 200 pounds. I walk around, if I'm 180, I'm fat. You know? These guys are
180. I'm 180. I'm back in 8th grade. Anyways, listen, thanks so much for your time. It's been a great chat. I think the last time we chatted with you was when you, Paul, and Duke came over for a ski at the Mandalay Bay. When things are back normal and you guys find yourself in Vegas, stop on by again. But in the meantime, stay safe. Have a great camp. Can't wait to see you against Chavez on February 20th. All right, take care.
Appreciate it. All right, have a good one.